All right, guys. Well, hey, welcome back to another episode of Lions Guy Podcast. And today I've got a few of my most favorite, inspirational, influential, some might say sexiest people in my circles, especially the lady we have on today. Frank Layo, Jeff Harris, and my beautiful wife for 22 years, Miss Jody Walls. And we all just finished the Goggins challenge, 4x4x48. And wanted to hop on here and just have some fun, talk about the experience. And I know it's actually gotten really popular. It seemed like this year there was a lot of synergy going around. So guys, real quick, we'll go around the horn and we'll start with you, Frank. Frank, since you're first up on the line, let's go a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Great. Frank Layo. I am an entrepreneur right now. So I have a cigar company, that's one of them, and a technology company. Got introduced to this group, Jeff and you, Dale, and Jody. It's great to meet you. Just an inspirational group of people that I've been connected with, and it's really helped me highlight some of the things that we're going to discuss today. So looking forward to jumping into it.
Cool. Jody?
I am Jody Walls, and as Dale said, I'm his wife of 22 years, and I actually have a coffee company called The Overcaffeinated Life, and I'm also a soul purpose coach under Spark Your Soul, which is part of the brand of The Overcaffeinated Life.
Cool. Jeff?
Oh yeah, right now I'm a chief revenue officer for a tech company in Dallas, OMG, Order My Gear. I've been an entrepreneur for many years, and I actually kind of been known as the kind of like the hired gun for these senior executive roles, and I've been fortunate to do quite a lot of them. I've served as a consultant for many years, and outside of work, I like to run until I can't even suffer, and I don't know how far that is, but I'm always trying to find out.
We're going to talk about what you did, which I almost co-signed. We'll get into it. I wasn't doing it. I wasn't doing it. But anyway, real quick, so for those of you guys who don't know, so we're going to talk about the what I believe they call officially online the Goggins Challenge. I've always known it as the 4x4x48. So David Goggins, retired Navy SEAL. He's become a bit of a popular, I call him a mindset influencer, because even though he does a ton of big endurance stuff, and he's certainly run big runs, 100-mile races, Moab, he's got some stuff on his belt. He was doing big ultra marathons like every weekend when he was a recruiter in the Navy, I believe I read in his book. He's got a book called Can't Hurt Me. If you haven't heard of it, or get out there and check it out if you're a reader. It's a really powerful book about a guy who's really just determined the depths of how far we can go, and really just proving it. If you don't mind, it don't matter, man. And I personally, I don't know about you guys, but I listen to him on YouTube constantly. If I'm heads down or working out, I go YouTube compilations, David Goggins, just let him rip, man. He gets me going. So that said, Jeff, 4x4x48. Why did you do it?
Well, that is a great question. So this was my second time.
Is that one we ask ourselves many times? Like during
I think I asked myself that every 4 hours during it. Why am I doing this? So last year was my first time doing it. I saw an invite from Frank and one of our other friends, Joel Neeb, and I was like, wow, 4x4x48. Never heard of this. Read about it. I was like, wow, this looks terrible. When are y'all doing it? And it turns out they're starting it within the next 24 hours. So I jumped on in, and to me, it was a mental and physical challenge, more of a mental challenge, probably. To getting up and running at 2 a.m. is it's not my favorite thing. But also it was for a good cause. The 4x4x48, the idea is to choose a charity and to donate to run for a particular charity. And Frank's was St. Jude, which was again this year. And to me, running it is just a personal test to better yourself. It's also a time to just reset. Once I get going to the 4x4x48, the first 12 miles are pretty straightforward. And then your body starts to say, hey, what's going on here with the lack of sleep and, lack of ability to recover. And so then it becomes a mental game. And and from there on until you get to, when we're running, I look at it as rounds. You're running 12 rounds of 4 miles each. And to me, that part, it enables me kind of just let go of what's going on in the world and just focus on running the mile that I'm in. That's kind of my mantra. And it has to be when you're running that far. And so to me, it's a time to just step away from the world, and I enjoyed that part
Yeah.
immensely.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess I didn't even mention 4x4x48, 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. So you end up running 48 miles over that. And it's like Jeff, like you're saying, Jeff, it's quite the mental test. Jody, how about you? This was, why'd you end up doing it this year?
Um, because I have a problem with you doing things and me thinking that I can't do them. So whenever he says he's going to do something, I'm always like, well, I can do that too. So that's my toxic trait, is following him around and trying to do all the things that he does. I tried it last year and I got about halfway through, and that 6 a.m. run, that second day, I told myself, and I said it to Dale, what, this is stupid. Why am I doing this? Like, I was completely, I hit the wall, and I was like, yeah, I'm all done. I'll support you. And then this year I was like, no, I can do this. I'm going to do this. And so I just got my mind right and just said, I'm going to do it. And I actually felt so much better than I thought I would have. And I didn't really hit the bailout button like I had the year before. So it was a feat for me to get through to that point.
Yeah. Yeah. Frank, how about you? What got you into it?
Well, that's fantastic, and I'm glad you made it, Jody. And it comes down to that mental mindset. So, as Jeff said, well, I guess if we're talking toxic traits, my toxic trait is daring people to do things I don't want to do until they do it. Right. So, I had heard about this and I had read Goggins' book, and it's actually a great audiobook read, and I listened to it during the 4x4x48. And I came to the conclusion that the hardest thing you've done is the hardest thing you've done. And unless you're continually trying to do hard things and push yourself, everything seems difficult, right? So I actively seek out things that are going to push the limits. And, when I was talking to Joel Neeb about it, who connected Jeff and I this time last year, it was like, I think I'm going to do this. And he said, okay. And I'm like, shit, all right, I guess we're doing this. And then he added Jeff, which is just another level of commitment. I'm sure we're going to get into that, but it started with, it's a challenge physically, it's a challenge mentally, it's an opportunity to raise awareness. I'm a big supporter of St. Jude, so additional way to raise awareness for that, and just see what am I made of, and as you age, what are you made of? And this year came to, I made it last year, let's do it again, right? Let's see if we can keep going and keep chopping it down another year later. And it worked out that the mental part is really the challenge, where I know I can run it. I ran it last year, but as Jeff said, and he's not lucky enough to set the hours, since I set them on the East Coast. I set it where midnight and 4 a.m. sounds better than 10 and 2 a.m. So, but those nighttime runs, and we can get into the fun of it, and my local wildlife issue here, but setting the time of the runs and getting up and doing it, when you can do it, the mental part makes the physical much easier. So, I like the challenge of just pushing the body and pushing the mind.
Yeah, no, it is that. I mean, again, it's just, and I was kind of the same, like this year, and it kind of looking back, and probably next year with Jeff's influence, I'll probably try to level it up, because I did it last year, and this year was like, can I do it again? What's going to be different? But I'll say, like, for me this year, like last year when I ran it, there was ice on the ground. It was blowing. It was so freaking cold. My doggone beats would quit literally 20 minutes into the round. Like, I had to look it up after, but I guess because of cold weather, the static electricity, they'll shut off. So I'm like 20 minutes into these rounds, and they would go off just automatically because it was so freaking cold outside. So this year was kind of like nice weather, and just for me, last year was like way more climatic than it was for this year. This year was like, check the box, did it again, no worries. Because I think you're right, Jeff. Like, once I did it once, like coming into this year was like, no doubt. Like, I knew I could do this again. So it was just a matter of doing it again. But Jeff, you leveled it up. So so normally we're just running, but in classic Jeff Harris style, you added some bonuses to it, sweeten the pot.
Yeah, well, and it was just what you just said. I last year when we ran this for the final round, I decided to wear a 20-pound vest, because why not? Try to inspire the guys, and also because my body was just completely wore out. I was wondering, can I do this? So I went to the track, and busted it out. And actually my feet were kind of mangled after that from,
Mm.
I've never run that distance before. For a few days. So I did take a few days off from running, but I immediately thought, I just got to thinking, I was like, wow, I wonder what it'd be like to run this whole thing with a 20-pound vest. I wonder if anybody's ever done that. And so coming back last week, before we ran this, I had actually just got back from a trip as I travel every week. Had a bad head cold and honestly did not feel like doing the 4x4x48. I didn't want to at all. I just wanted to sleep. And so I had verbally made a commitment here that I was going to run with a vest. And so when I make those type of commitments, it's like I got to hold myself accountable. And so I ran the first 4 miles with a vest on, and it was absolutely terrible. I do a lot of training with a 20-pound vest. It's kind of like a love-hate relationship. And I just told my wife, it's like, you know what, this is stupid. I'm not going to do this. And so, the hours go by, and I'm getting ready, getting stretching, getting my shoes on for the next run. I go outside and I come back and grab my vest. It's like, I'll try it again. It's like, I just got to eat my own dog food, and just run the mile that I'm in. And once I ran the next 4, just like I flipped a switch and immediately I was just like, I'm running this whole thing. This is what I'm going to do. And so I started off running a lot slower pace. And here's a little tip. If you're going to run 48 miles with a vest on, make sure you have invest in some Glide or some Vaseline to put all over your upper body because you're going to get rubbed raw. So that was a big thing that I was, before each run, getting up to stretch and, do yoga and all this other stuff to get ready, but making sure that I had enough Glide on so I wouldn't get rubbed raw. But yeah, that once I got into it though, I just got stronger mentally and physically. And in the midnight runs or the 2 a.m. runs are the most challenging for me, obviously, that hour. And so I would choose to like run a slower pace. But by the time I finished the 4x4x48, I went, because I typically, when I go out and just jog, I'm typically running 8-minute miles with a vest on. If I'm going to do something like the Murph, I'm going to run really fast and it's really challenging, but a Murph is short, you run 2 miles. And so it's like 2 1-mile sprints. But running this, what I figured, I took, some notes from a mutual friend of ours, Chris Norris, who's an ultra runner. And he always says, it's like, just run slow and just slow it down, slow and smooth. And so I started off just running around 11-minute miles, but by the time I finished, I was running 8-minute miles with a vest on, mostly too, because I was like a horse seeing the barn. Like, I just want to get done with this thing. I want to be done. I want to take a nap and not be interrupted. Yeah. So, it was one of the, like what Frank was saying, it's like just trying to push the limits. And once I got going through this, I figured I'll listen to my body. I'm not going to hurt myself. If there's something starts to break down, then I'm going to take this vest off. I'm not going to do something ridiculous and put myself out of commission. Cause I train 2 to 3 hours every day. Last Friday, I hit my 800 straight day of training, because I had to take a little time off for a surgery, years ago. And to me, training every day, it's like building a chain. Putting another link in the chain, and a chain is always as strong as its weakest link. And so it takes a lot of discipline to build that habit. It just becomes like part of your routine. And so every day I consider it, I'm going to put another link in the chain. I'm not going to redline it every day. I mean, anybody out there who trains, you can't do that. You can't go all out. You got seasons. But to me, if I were to miss a day, it becomes easy to miss another day and then another day. And next thing you know, it's like you fall off the wagon and you get out of shape. And one of the easiest thing to do is, once you're in shape, is to stay in shape. Because once you get out of that, it's so hard to like climb that mountain again. But yeah, one of the things that I'm always preaching, and I've talked to you about this, Dale, with my personal battle with a rare disease, is, when you're enduring hard things, you got to let go of the end game and just focus on the process. And that one really tested me mentally, because you don't want to, if you start looking out, it's like, oh, wow, I got 40 something more miles to go. Whoo, well, wearing a vest, that's a beast. But just running the mile that you're in, it's like, all right, I'm running this mile. And then boom, that mile goes, and then running this next mile. There we go. And that's it. And to me, it became almost like a a meditation almost, because I couldn't focus on anything else. And I just became super mindful of the moment that I was in. And surprisingly, I wasn't sore the next day. Here's a little, here's some of the things I've learned having done this a few times is it's the active recovery between the runs. You're not going to get a whole lot of sleep, but it's making sure that you stretch. I stretch before and after each run. And then I take a massage gun to my legs before and after each run. And take an Epsom salt bath. I do it like every 12 miles. Just soak my legs and make sure that you're taking care of your body nutrition wise. My thing is just staying hydrated. I don't really consume a whole lot of food. It's just my diet, but making sure you stay hydrated is absolutely crucial. But yeah, and this year I didn't have to shovel snow between rounds like I did last year, so that was a plus.
Did you any of you guys, Frank or Jody, did any of you guys do anything to prepare for the run, like getting ready for it?
Jody, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I think it was very last minute that I decided to do it with you. I don't think it was, there wasn't much prep there. Not for me. Mm-mm.
I will tell you the difference. Well, yeah. And, Jeff snuck in after another 4 and another 4, and then he kept sneaking it in. I think, last year, and I learned some things year over year. Last year, I would say I trained for it. So, there were days where I'd run 3-4 milers, right? Just to make sure I was physically there. On the flip side of that, I think I was a little cocky, Jeff, and you may remember this, where after each run, even the 4 a.m. ones, I'd come home and have a glass of scotch and a cigar. Just because.
I remember that.
Why not add to it? Now, I didn't realize how much that increased the level of difficulty. I skipped that portion of this year's program and swapped it out with push-ups. But that was maybe that's not recommended as far as tactics for preparation. The stretching and the ice baths are much better than a scotch and a cigar in between each of the runs, especially when you're supposed to be sleeping.
Was there anything from the first time, Frank, that aside from that, anything else that you didn't do the first time, but you tacked on this time to kind of the lessons learned wise?
Other lessons, I mean, the stretching was huge. I did not stretch enough last year, and I paid for it the day after, right? Or the week after, really. I went back through my run history. So similar to Jeff's thing, and we kind of bonded over this. My initial, let's start doing things that are hard is I grew up swimming. I swam and played water polo in college. So I'm a water mammal by trade. And, a group of guys at work a few years ago was like, let's see who can run a mile a day for the most days in a row, right? And so I clung to that. And it has been over 14 years since I've missed a day of running at least 2 miles a day. Wow. So the running part was hard, but your body gets used to it, right? And then it just becomes the mental block of it. And so kind of just building that habit, the running becomes the easy part. So this year I tacked on push-ups to it. So I would do 100 push-ups surrounding each run. So 50 before and 50 after, which is not like running with a vest, but it adds a degree of difficulty to it, or at least changes up your muscle. Your body doesn't know which muscles to be more mad at in between runs.
Yeah. And I would say, what is that, Joe?
I was going to say, I definitely did not stretch last year when I bailed out. I did not do any type of regimented stretching, but this year I did. And I think that made a huge difference.
Yeah, I think I did that last year. Last year I did more ice baths than I did this year. I think probably because of the before and after stretching, I was pretty good about that. But I think that's it, right, Jeff? Like that stretching, like Monday or the day after, I feel fine. Like I'm not, with all the stretching, I noticed this last year because I was really regimented about the stretching last year. I knew it's like you got to stretch before and after. And be really disciplined about that. And I was surprised last year and not so much this year, but I figured that's what it was, is that I felt fine. I could have got up and ran again the next day. No big deal. Like it's surprising how fresh you kind of feel if you keep that stretch regimen up.
You're so right. I felt great. I didn't run the next day. I went on a 5-mile walk with my wife and I biked 40 miles, just like active recovery. I felt fine. I did to go to the chiropractor just because you get compressed when you run. I run a lot of miles, and so I go pretty much on a bi-weekly regimen. Either getting massage or going to the chiropractor, and my chiropractor noticed too. So, wow, you're really compressed. Like, well, I did just run 48 miles with a vest on. Wasn't probably the brightest thing in the world, but yeah, and I jumping on the foam roller and making sure that I'm always using that for my back and my legs as well. And to me, the older I get, I'm going to be 48 in a few weeks, and that's another reason why I want to do this as well. I wanted to prove to myself that my future self that you're still capable of doing hard things. Because I don't know what the next hard thing is going to be, but it'll top that for sure. And I'm training to I want to run my first 100 miler hopefully this year, which I've never done. And doing that, it showed me too that my body can really stand up to taking some pounding for sure. And yeah, I felt great. I did not train specifically for this at all. I was actually, when I got the text that I think it was your text saying, "Hey, one of you, Frank, might have been you. Hey, the 4x4 by 48 is this coming up week." I was like, "Oh my goodness!" I just wanted to go skiing. But yeah, it turned out it was great. And here's one of the lessons I've learned, both years, and when you're going out and doing endurance events, is make sure you got the support of your significant other and your family, and clarify the level of commitment it's going to take. Because I couldn't do these things without the support and encouragement of my wife. Her only request is that I stayed in the guest room so that I do not interrupt anybody's sleep. And so I do that. I come down, I stage all my clothes for the next couple of days. Get all my hydration drinks ready. And that way I'm just kind of off on my own little planet. But that's one of the key things. Make sure you got support from the family.
Yeah, you need it.
I have the same thing. It's sleep downstairs. Don't bother us. But we'll take care of everything else, right? So that that support is critical. And checking in. How are you doing? Like, are you okay? Are you going to die? Like, how long should you be gone for this run so I can make sure you're back? That's important.
Yeah, Joe, what was the hardest part for you?
For me, I think was the treadmill. So I did all of my runs on the treadmill except for the last one. And so for me, I hear you talking about mindfulness and meditation during the run. I just wanted to ignore everything. I watched a Netflix show every time I ran. But by the time I got to the last couple runs, I had to get off the treadmill because my knees, they had enough. And so instead of going outside, I would run around. What's the square footage of the basement, Dale? So it's probably,
you just ran the mat area. So
so I just ran around the mat.
15 by 18.
Yeah, so we have the wrestling mats downstairs, and I had to get off the treadmill. My knees they just wouldn't do it anymore. So here I am downstairs in the basement running circles around this little square, spot. But I knew I wanted to keep going, but I just couldn't keep going on that treadmill. So I feel like that was the hardest part for me, was just the fact that I was doing the treadmill. But Dale and I were kind of switching off. So I would go a little bit earlier because I didn't want. You did your treadmills 12 and 4. So
I did
that
the
way
nights.
we were outside. Yeah. But so that we only have one treadmill. So we had to kind of piggyback off of that. So I think that definitely the treadmill was my biggest challenge.
I can understand that. I do a lot of treadmill running. We're big runners in our house, and also the Peloton. We have a dual setup, 2 Pelotons, 2 treads, and so we can train together. Mostly because I would hog both of those machines, and then my wife would have to put it on the calendar to say, "I'm actually going to ride the bike," and it's like, when? She's like, "Yeah, that's just it. When are you not riding it?" Going back to what you were saying, I have definitely watched a lot of Netflix during COVID. I live in Colorado, above 7,000 feet, and I don't mind running in the cold. It gets extremely windy where we live, and so I'm kind of like a fair weather runner anymore. It's already difficult running at 7,000 feet, and you got a headwind coming at you. It's not the most fun. So I've actually ran an ultramarathon on a treadmill during COVID because why not? There was, hey, what are you going to do today? I'm like, I'm going to watch the Olympics and run 31 miles. It's like, why not? So I get it. It can be extremely boring as well.
Very boring.
Yep.
But it got me through. So I got through 2 seasons of Sweet Magnolia, and then I was done. So
Nice.
Yeah, the nighttime runs for me, like, I do them on a treadmill because we live in like an older neighborhood, so I don't want to be like the guy running around the neighborhood with the black hoodie on like at midnight, and it was Friday and Saturday night. So I have a thing about people texting and driving as it is. So at nighttime, and I just like just safety, I was just like, I'll just do this, but I hate them. Like that the treadmill runs suck, and I noticed that quick, like getting back outside after, like, and Joe, like when you ran that one outside at the end, did you feel more,
it was
like
great.
free range, like better on the legs, felt like more fresh?
It was much, much better. Yeah, I felt like I could have,
Would
even though it was the last
if you were to
one.
do it again, would you do it outside?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would. I wouldn't be a night outside runner for sure. I don't like to run in the dark by myself anyway. So I think that would probably be my only hold up, would be the nighttime ones. But as long as it's not cold, because I'm not a cold weather person either. So I'm very fair weather with being outside. So I would try to do more outside if the weather allowed. So versus the
So
treadmill.
what I'm hearing is Jody wants to be uncomfortable, but not that uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yep, that's exactly it. Yeah. Because mind you, the support, I was also running this, but I was also taking care of the kids, and I was also doing all that. So I'm just trying to make sure I could be as comfortable doing it as possible, but still do it.
And I have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old, and the 7-year-old now wants to do it with me.
Oh, that's awesome.
He doesn't really get it. He doesn't see the wake up in the middle of the night. He just sees me run a couple times during the day.
Yeah, well, our
But I feel
7-year-old tried to come with us on the last one. He was sitting in the front yard with his book bag, and he's like, "I want to go. Can I go?" No, you can't. We'll wait right there, and we'll be back.
Well, I think he can ride his bike with me, and that's probably a good idea. But so I feel like with this night run, it's an appropriate time to share. And Jeff, I know you've been in it, Dale. I don't know if you've been in the text string as long as understanding my local nemesis, but about 6 months ago, I was out. I couldn't sleep, and I got up at 4 a.m. and I went for a run. I did my normal 4-mile loop that I did the 4x4 by 48 on, and I was coming around. It was the month we were doing the burpee challenge. I'm like, I'm going to run 4 and then do my 100 burpees or whatever, and then run another 4 because I got time and had a lot on my mind and I had to run. So I was out running and coming around the back end of my second loop, and it was a full moon. And when you run and it's a full moon, all you do, you look 3 feet in front of you, right? You just don't want to trip, right? There's really not anything to see from a scenery perspective. I run the loop 1,000 times. Just look 3 feet in front of you, and I see a shadow darting at me. So I duck, right? I have enough military training to know that fast moving shadows require ducking. And this thing buzzes over my head. And so I run up to like 100 feet in front of me. There's a bridge, and there's an owl standing there, and he does this little number where he looks over his shoulder at me and glares at me. I'm like, wow, that was really weird. That owl had mistaken me for food. But that wasn't the end of it, because that owl proceeded to attack me 4 times on that run. And then another 4 times the following week. I was attacked a total of 7 times by this owl. He got my hat. Luckily, I never sustained any real injury, but it's only because I had some. I mean, they're apex predators. They're absolutely silent, especially when you have earphones in, and you don't see them coming. So I've taken to running anything. I got a strobe light on my hat. Apparently, that distracts them, but we'll see. I got the headlamp. But all my nighttime runs now, I have to carry a tennis racket with me in the event that there's another owl attack, because I felt absolutely defenseless against an owl that was attempting to kill me. So that was, you can picture me running at 8 p.m. and at midnight and at 4 a.m. with a tennis racket around, the neighborhood golf course.
Is he hitting you or just swooping at you?
Oh no, he hits. Like, he got my hat with one of them, and there's if I look on next door, there's reports of. I mean, this is a rogue owl. The owl is insane. Like, he's well known and well documented. He's sent people to the hospital for stitches and all this. So at first I'm like, maybe I got to between the nest and the mother or whatever, but it turns out it's just a vindictive owl that doesn't like athletes. I don't know. It's terrible.
I remember that text thread. There was only a few of us on there, and I did not realize, or maybe I forgot, that you ran with a tennis racket. That
Yeah,
is
the tennis racket. I
kind
get a
of
lot of
tight.
queer looks, and people like run by me. They kind of look. I'm like, it's for the owl, and they're like, what? That confuses them even more. Like I'm going to play tennis with an owl or something. They're like, this guy's on drugs. But it's required.
That is wild. Yeah, so if Jody wasn't running at night before, she's definitely not running at night
Not a
now.
chance.
Yeah, she flips out. We got an area, especially when the corn's up. She's like, these bats are all flying around. You could see them. She's like, and she's like whipping me back around, get me out of there quick. So yeah. So back to the challenge. Does Frank get does he get like a 4x4x48 finisher, like little asterisk, with the, not that he was using, performance enhancing drugs, but he was like weaponized kind of.
Yeah. I was weaponized. I wasn't wearing a vest, but I was carrying a little bit extra weight. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Oh my God. So would you guys recommend this for people? Like, if someone was asking you, like, should I do it? Like, what would you say?
I mean, I'll take a shot at that because my social circle during COVID was limited to the parents at the drop off for preschool. So every single one, they're like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? What is wrong with you? But I couldn't recommend it more. Right. So it is just challenge yourself. Like maybe you can only do half of them for a year, but it's more than you've done. And it helps you push yourself and understand what your limits are and where your breaking points are and what the self-talk turns into when you get to that point. And it'll help you understand and deal with everything else in your life. So I'm a big fan of pushing yourself in whatever way. Maybe this isn't the exact right way for everybody to run, but there's something out there that you have to advocate people pushing themselves for.
And even
totally
those
agree.
who want to push themselves, there are modifications for that where they can walk or they can, do the cardio or at least something to push them. Because I feel like I have the same, people around the moms and just they're like, what are you doing? Why would you do that? So I got a lot of that. So I think that if they were to try it, at least it's challenging themselves to do, like you said, Frank, a portion of it just to see how far they can go. And maybe they venture into a space within themselves that they didn't know was there. So it's just that challenge. I think that everyone should maybe try it.
Because our friend Dwayne Wagner, who was on the podcast, longtime business and best friend of mine, Norma did it, right? She did it with his wife. Did the modified? She was doing like just cardio each time, like on the Peloton or something like that.
She did 3 miles each every 4 hours, and then
okay.
the last, so she did run. But the last one, I think she had gotten blisters, and so she did the Peloton, just the bike for the last one, I think.
Right. Yeah, I mean, because most people don't run 4 miles in a year, let alone, so just doing anything for 4 hours, for 48 hours is. How about you, Jeff? What would you say?
I would definitely recommend it. And yeah, if you can't run, walk, do something modified, and just to test yourself. I highly recommend it. It's a test of persistence, of discipline. It's a test of patience, your fortitude, grit, resilience. And I walk away from challenges like this, and I feel mentally stronger. And my whole philosophy about training is I train first and foremost for mental toughness and physical strength and endurance and stamina. It's a kind of a byproduct of everything that I do for training. And running that with a vest, I don't recommend that if you have never trained with a vest or run that far, because you could really hurt yourself. So small steps. And but to me, I just wanted to live in a world where that was possible. And now we do. Now there's people like you, Dale. There's going to be other folks who are going to go do it. So that it's great. And to me, though, it was to prove to myself that I could. I was mentally strong enough to endure this type of challenge. And I must say, since we finished that one, I haven't felt this great in a long time, and just kind of like at peace. It's like I kind of where I work, we talk about one of the icebreakers, when I'm coming on board and going out and having some drinks, is what's your spirit animal? Everybody has a spirit animal, and I actually know what mine is. It's the Incredible Hulk. I actually have a Hulk sitting here on my bookshelf, and people ask me why. I'm like, because I'm the calmest person in the world until I'm not. And the 4x4x48, I'm like super nerd when it comes to revenue and business and finance and all this stuff. I'm definitely the Bruce Banner, but when I train, it allows me to kind of let the beast, rage a bit. And so that challenge for me was, it was mental. It helped me to bring my life back down to neutral, but it also let me just work through so many issues, because I've been just going nonstop, for months with this new role, and I've just been super calm again, and I needed it. It was just kind of like a reset button. I highly recommend to just push yourself to do hard things. It's a game changer.
Yeah, that's always been jujitsu for me. I mean, running the company for all those years doing jujitsu, I used to say, like, I can't think about the everything that I've got on my shoulders at the office and coming up, when I got a dude that outweighs me by 55 pounds trying to pretend kill me, like, and give me 90 minutes of that 2 days a week and we're good. But it's that, because so I totally understand what you're saying, because your brain is going primal survival mode, trying to get you through another 4 miles, and you keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing. So what you were saying earlier about the meditativeness of it, that you do truly just kind of, for me anyway, you just kind of get in this flow, and it's just step and just finish your loop, just keep stepping, and then it's done. I would say too, though, like the walk stuff, to your point that you're saying earlier, like I couldn't walk it because I want it done. You know what I mean? Like I want it done. So it's one of those things, like you're saying, like I want them done, especially when you get those later rounds, man. I just want to get them over with. I'll push myself, but that's a discipline factor though too, because like you said, you'll burn yourself out if you, so slow and steady. It is a marathon.
Yeah, and some of the things too, going back to key learnings is in the middle of the night. I don't know about you three, but after I get up and run at 2 a.m., first of all, you don't have 4 hours between these events, because you run, that takes a good 40 minutes. You got to stretch, recover, get a shower. And when I get up at 2 a.m. to do it, I'm getting up at 1:30 so that I can get my body ready and get my mindset right, because you don't feel like running. And what did William James once said, I don't sing because I'm happy. I'm happy because I sing. In other words, we have to act our way into feeling. And so I don't feel like running right then, but I know once I get my shoes on and I start going, it's going to change my state. And by the time I get done running, I actually feel pretty great, and I'm wide awake. I would get a shower, I stretch, and so you got a good hour of being up. And I don't know about you all, I can't just lay down and just boom, I'm right back asleep. And so I lay down and meditate. This is what I learned from the first one, because I would be up for a long time. And I would meditate and calm my mind back down and just focus on my breathing. And I was able to fall asleep a lot faster, and then wake up a few hours later and do it again. And that was super, super helpful, just to get my brain to kind of shut down, and just get my body to relax. It was really good.
What was so did anyone have any? We all talked about the recovery. Like, was there any recovery issues, or did we all come off this fresh just because of stretching this time around?
I mean, I came up fresh. I ran 4 miles the next morning. So, I mean, I was back ready to go. Now, I was slower than normal, and it required some stretching before and after that. But, I will tell you, I went back through my runs because I track them all in an app. And last year, after the 4x4x48, not only was I significantly slower for a week, but I was running like 2 miles, 2.5 miles, just to kind of get my body limbered back up. This, recovery week, I was back on my normal pace of running, 4 miles a day, without stop and without any major issues. So I'm gonna attribute most of that to stretching and just the kind of my mindset. I shouldn't be tired, right? My mindset, I shouldn't be hurt. So it wasn't.
Yeah, my feet
Yeah.
definitely hurt for sure. They were sore, but I did go run 2 miles on Monday after I got back from my training session. So I felt good. It's just, not sore really at all, except for my feet.
Mm,
Yeah. Last year, my feet was the only thing that hurt. They felt like they had been crushed kind of in a vice a little bit. They weren't
mm,
used to that type of such a long distance, but now I've run so many long distances so often. My feet felt fine. That was my biggest concern, especially wearing a vest, but I came off of it. I felt fine. Just to be proactive in recovery, though, I chose not to run the next day. I did a long bike ride to just let my joints relax, and then I was running right after that at start of the week, and it actually felt like I felt like Superman a bit after running so far with the vest. You take it off, and then I was down at sea level at Dallas, and I felt like Superman, quite honestly. It
It's
was
funny that
great.
you mentioned that, the Hulk, because I have my spirit animal here too is my Superwoman on my desk. So
Oh, that's great. That is great.
yeah, no, I do recall now. Like my feet didn't bother me this year. Am I the? Do any of you guys run with the 5 finger shoes? I run with those Vibrams. So like
You do?
I'm talking about those 5 fingers.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yep.
yeah. I did that last year. And I was worried about it, but for me, like I feel like I've run with less injury just with them. If I'm in between shoes or breaking in new shoes, or whatever, my calves go out on me. But ever since I've switched to the 5 fingers, I don't have any like calf issues and things like that running. So I've been running with the 5 fingers for a while. But
Yeah,
and last year my feet took a beating, but this year I totally fresh. But now that you mention it, yeah, last year my feet were mangled. It felt like, but not this year.
there's a good book on that. What is it? Is it Born to Run? It's all about barefoot running.
Mm,
I've never done that, but I do. My go-to shoe for distances is Hoka. I've tried, so I like on shoes just to wear around every day. I used to run in them a lot, but only short distances. Like I'll do the Murph because they're super light, and I'm only running 2 miles. But any distance, Hoka is my go-to. It's like Cadillac. It's great, smooth ride.
yeah, sweet. Jody and I did the Murph first time last year. I have a vest, 20-pound vest, and we were talking about it. And I was like she said earlier, I told her what I was doing, and she's like, "Oh, I'll do it with you." And I was like, "Well, I'll wear the vest. You don't have to do the vest thing or whatever." She's like, I'll just. How much is it? 20 pounds. So I'll just carry weights. I'm like, huh? So
worst
she runs.
decision ever. It was awful.
She's running, through the neighborhood like with 10 pounds on each side. I'm like, oh my god. The neighbors were.
The neighbors are trying to wave to me. They were like, "You don't have to wave back. It's okay."
Like the Murph
That looked,
farmers
yeah,
carry.
yeah, farmer carry Murph. That was torture.
Yeah, that's brutal.
We got through it.
Yeah, that's
So,
impressive.
so is everybody doing it again?
I'll do it again.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah, maybe.
I'll do it again. I'll have to figure out some way to up the ante. This year, I was going to try to bike after each round, and then when I did the first one with the vest, I'm like, I think the vest is good. I'm just going to do 100 push-ups before and after each run. I did it just like Frank. Frank and I have a challenge this year of doing 200 push-ups a day. I think I'm past 15,000 as of today or something like that.
Wow.
But it's good to keep you in check. Now it no longer takes discipline. It's just like a daily habit anymore. It's like get up and this is what I do to start my workout.
Do you feel like mentally this time around that just your mind was just like, yep, this is it? Like compared to last time, right? So because was last year everyone's first year or was my first year? Was you guys first year?
Yeah.
My first year, and the 24-hour notice that I had, I was in kind of an anxiety mode. Like,
Yeah.
can I even keep up with these guys? Can my body handle this? Am I going to be able to do it? And yeah, this year I didn't think anything of it. Quite honest, I just knew I was going to. My only thing where I was kind of vacillating was, do I wear the vest? Do I not wear the vest? And then after that second round, it's like I'm all in.
Yeah.
It's like that's it.
Yeah.
I was a little
Last year,
anxious
go ahead.
first. I said I was a little anxious at first but I just told myself that there was no other option. I was going to finish it, and
Mm.
I did, and it wasn't it was a different mental space than I was last year when I allowed myself just to bail out. So
Yeah, because
Well,
you did
there's
half of it
something
last
to.
year. Yeah, and which is still it was 24. I mean, 24 miles in 12 hours is still. But you were saying, Frank?
Well, I mean, there's something to just when your mind makes up that this is I'm not going to tolerate stopping, then you always find more, right? There's more there when you're like, well, I need to figure out how to do it, not how to come up with an excuse to stop, right? That there's some power to that, to say, all right, well, I'm on round 7 and it really sucks, but I have 5 more, is different than how can I make 5 more, right? There's just something about the way the mind controls your body. And that's one of the things that, like, you kind of have to learn for yourself. Like, you can't teach that, you have to learn that. And everybody learns at a different rate. So it's, all right, I have 5 more. How am I going to get 5 more done? Not can I get 5 more done?
Exactly. Yeah. And I find one of the things that helps me is I'll post it. Every round I try to post something, some kind of inspiring quote on social media. And most of it, really the intention is to keep me accountable, because it starts to draw a big following doing something like that. And so people are watching, and then they're texting me, how's it going, man? How you holding up? And it just keeps me accountable, to just get, and seeing people engage, and sending me positive messages. It helps to feed the good wolf inside, and
Yeah.
keeps me going. And that's another thing too, between rounds, during the day is, going back to motivational videos. Gosh, have a list of them ready,
Mm-hmm.
and because you're going to need it going through something like that. I've watched a lot of them, especially when I be getting ready to go on a run. I have that plan on my phone so I could, get my mind in the right place. Really, really helps.
Yeah, they're key. That one I sent to the group. I listened to that one every single time last year. This year I mixed it up. I think I listened to the second mountain like for a few of the runs and some of the. So I mixed it up this year. Again, this year for me it was just kind of like I said. So kind of looking back on it, I definitely need to level it up like you did, Jeff, because it was this year kind of like, yeah, I've done this before, whatever. So it was just kind of mentally, it was like par for the course. Like I knew I was going to do it. I knew I could do it again, and I think that's it. And I think that's the big thing, having done it, is you can see what you can do. Like you can it's just empowering, I guess, is a word that we haven't used yet, but we've thrown the superhero characters around. But it is empowering to kind of realize that, wow, because when you look back on it, you go, man, I just ran 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours and I feel good. Like that's empowering, man. It's good shit.
It really is, and I find it's amazing how much it actually inspired my family, even though I had done it before, to where they're just cheering me on and just shocked by the time I'm finished. And then it's like, hey, let's go do this now. Aren't you tired? I'm like, I'm tired of running, but I'm ready to do something else now.
Um, Jeff, you said you had a head cold. So I did too. And I'll tell you, man, I could tell the immune system was down because it came with a vengeance by the end. Like I think I crashed out for a solid 12 hours because like that sickness by the end of it, my body, it was just, it was full force and I just went down and I felt like still slept it off, got up, felt great. But man, I could feel in the end, just my immune system was just getting demolished.
I did too. I did too. That night, the most important metric that I actually track in my life is my sleep quality. And so, to me, sleep is God's medicine. It's the ultimate miracle drug. And then it's nutrition, and then training is kind of like the tip of the iceberg. The things that people see, and it's like, wow, you did that. It's like that's such a small part of my life. But sleep. Uh, my sleep quality, I slept about 10 hours at night, I think it was, something like that, which felt great, but my body hadn't really recharged. And I was measuring my body battery on Garmin was at a 5 for that whole 48 hours. It's just my body would not recharge. So talk about, when you hit E, how far can you go? You can go pretty far, because my
Mm-hmm.
body was definitely on E. And then the next day, Sunday, I went to bed at 7 o'clock that night, and I got up at like 5 the next day to, um, 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 5 the go train and stuff. And it was the best sleep. I had like a 95, 96 sleep quality, and I felt born again. I felt amazing. It was incredible. Yeah. It was really, really good. So yeah, and coming off with that cold, and I'm still kind of battling a little bit, but that made it extra challenging. That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like I said, I could just tell it was coming with a vengeance, and it just my body, it just in such a weakened state, it didn't have anything for it. I had to just go crash out.
Yeah, I started with a little, let's say, not perfect physical form, but after a couple runs and after that first night of runs, the second morning I was up and my body worked it through. So I kind of had the opposite, where the runs actually took whatever it was that was trying to fight. It gave up, right? It didn't stand a chance. So, I kind of worked through it. But yeah, there was something going around this year, I think.
Yeah. So so we talked about everyone would recommended doing, highly recommend doing it. So if someone says, "Yeah, I'm going to do it," how do I get through it? What are you telling them? What's the advice that you're giving?
Don't do it all on the treadmill.
Yeah, that's a good one. Jeff had a great list when we started, and he listed off here is one: get your support network and make sure they're bought in, and make sure they're going to emotionally support you, and all the other stuff that needs to take place. If it's childcare, or just making sure that you've got the clothes laid out, or whatever, anything that you don't have to do during this time period is better. And then I would recommend training and then not smoking cigars and drinking scotch in between training. So I think that's a big takeaway.
That was definitely leveling up. I remember that. My no alcohol during the run is really key. I think I did halfway through. I had a Athletic Brewery hazy IPA, which is a non-alcoholic beer, and it was so refreshing. It was wonderful. And so I had that, I think, Friday evening or something, and it was great. My recommendation is just like, not to recap everything, but having your clothes laid out, support network, and make sure you've done some training, and make sure you know what good shoes are gonna add the most comfort to your feet, because running that far in such a short amount of time, your bones in your feet can take a pounding, and so that is probably what's going to hurt the most, from my experience. And so just be careful of that. Go ahead.
I'd throw on one other for anybody who's going to do it new is, it's important to know what your body's telling you. It's also important to know what your body's trying to get out of by telling you certain things, right? So, Jeff, you hit on it earlier, is you don't want to push yourself beyond catastrophe, but you get to a point where it sucks. And you need to understand, is this just suck, or am I in physical danger of doing some real, causing some real injury? And finding that's part of what this challenge brings out is, where's your body putting a limit on you, and what can you go beyond, and what shouldn't you go beyond? So understanding that is it's an outcome, but you should go in with a pretty good understanding.
And I would say anyone who's starting it for the first time, just have grace for yourself. If you have to walk, just, if you're not quitting, you're still moving, you're not quitting, and just kind of don't set the expectation. If you're trying it for the first time, then just have grace with yourself. So that's what I would say.
Yeah. And I'd say your attitude, your mindset is such a big part of it. One of the things that I say every day is I get to run. And there was a time in my life I had a severe back injury 20 years ago, and I didn't walk like a normal human being for a good year. I mean, it was all I could do to get out of bed. And I would kind of limp my way very slowly, to my car, drive to work is all I could do to get out of my car. And that was a year of my life. So to be able to go out and run and do the things I do now, I'm very grateful that I get to do that, because not everyone has a chance or the opportunity to do it. So I get the wake up call, and I have the health and fitness to be able to go out and do it. I'm grateful for it. And it's amazing. So I would definitely do it again. So long as I can walk and run, I'll be doing the 4x4 by 48. because it comes down to me, it's a test of leadership. Is it because to me, the hardest person you're ever going to lead is yourself. I mean, that's the person we actually have true influence over, and so it was just me. Can I lead myself, through this in in enduring event, and what can I learn from it? So yeah, it's it'll change your belief systems of what you can and can't do.
Yeah.
And going back to what Frank was saying, we had a saying in the military, in the Marine Corps, are you hurt or are you injured? And
Yeah.
so you got to know the difference between that. If you're injured, you're out. You're going to be out of it.
Well, I was
So
going to go back
yeah,
to that, right? Because to Frank's point, none of us are doctors. This isn't medical advice, but there's soreness and then there's pain. Like when you're injured because it's a different type of pain. And I think like this is a great time to push through the soreness. And in fact, like once you get going, it goes away. Your body say, "Oh, we're doing this again." Okay, yep, check, and you're going. But certainly, if you're feeling like real sharp pain, like you said, like listen to what your body's telling you, but be cautious of what soreness is. Um, and know a lot of that's mental. I used to run with a guy all the time, and we had run like 8 miles the week before, and we were queued up. We were going to run 13. He wasn't a runner. He was running with me to kind of get in shape. Uh, and it was all mental because on the day we were running a 13, he had never run that far before. And at mile 5, he was already flipping out. Like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this. Like already. And I said, "Hey man, you ran longer than this, the other week or last time we ran, whatever it was. It's been a few years." And then when we got up farther, I remember him saying something like, "Hey, my whatever sore or whatever." And I was like, "Well, last time you ran 13 miles, did it feel like that?" He was like, "I don't know. I never ran this far before." I'm like, "Yeah, let's keep going." It's just you're pushing new limits, right? And again, it comes down to, is it just sore or is it real pain? You should know the difference, I guess. You just don't want to let yourself off the hook. You know what I mean?
totally agree. Totally agree. Yeah, and when it comes to running 4 miles, that might seem, like it might be a monumental challenge for somebody listening to
Mm,
this right now. Uh, and you know, running and doing hard things, I always my kind of mantra, my philosophy about training is no matter how hard you train, somebody's using your workout as a warm up. And I want to become that person a year from now, to where whatever crazy workout I'm, striving to do is just a warm up for the person I'm going to become. And living in Colorado, Olympic City, USA, I'm proving all the time. My next door neighbor, he was one of the pace setters for the sub 2 hour marathon.
mm.
He's from Kenya, and he trains here professionally. And so for him to go out and run, 4 or 5 minute miles for 10 miles is simple. And to me, I'm like, wow, okay, I can run a 5:30 for 8 miles still at my age, and then I'm gassed out. um, but yeah, it's you got to start somewhere, and like the saying says there's like, I think it's a Japanese proverb: when's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the next best time? Today. It's
Yeah.
like, just become the person that shows up and does hard things, day in and day out. You don't have to do it every day, but just be that person that never misses a day of training. And that's kind of my mindset. But
Yeah, and it's cumulative, right? So it's a 5 millimeter shift. It's add some push-ups to it, and then push-ups are no longer a challenge, and then add some pull-ups to it, and then pull-ups are no longer a challenge, and you won't recognize yourself once you keep adding those things on. It just compounds itself. And as Jeff said earlier, it's invigorating, it's mind clearing. It helps with everything. So
Yeah, I will never forget when I finished it the first time. I remember looking in the mirror, or I was online, whatever. I was like, "This right here is a shit money can't buy." Like, you go earn something like the 4x4x48, and it's just a awesome feeling to just feel that. And I think that's the point, right? Back to the whole Goggins thing. Like his thing is like, when you're feeling like you're ready to quit, you're only at 40% of how far you can really go. And I think it's kind of what you guys are kind of rounding out with here is like, the more you just keep pushing your mind, it'll recognize that Yeah, and we're the most adaptive creatures on this freaking planet, right? Like our mind, like once it knows, like no, this isn't bail out. We need to adapt to this, right? It's kind of switches from like survival, like escape from this problem to okay, this problem's here to stay. We've got to do something, and that's what I learned with the 4x4x48. Like once you start pushing through, your brain starts to go, okay, stop trying to run from it and start adapting. And it, like you said, it just keeps compounding for it.
I love that. That's so true. I mean, that's exactly what happened to me in that second round.
Yeah.
My mindset turned to that. It was like I'm running through this thing, one way or not. It's like I'm getting through. I'm going through this. I'm all in. And yeah, it was. And that was the game changer. So it just took a little while for I think my body to warm up to the idea that this guy's serious.
Yep. I don't know how your body doesn't already realize that, but
Right. Yeah. No kidding. So yeah, well, fellas, any save rounds that we didn't hit on for this thing?
no, I mean, I would encourage anybody to do it. We've got a good group of people. And, I think the other thing is the support network. I mean, I'm glad we did our little check-in mental stability health check, just over halfway through. If you're doing it, make sure you have other people that can motivate you because it gets dark. Those nighttime runs. I mean, there's 4 terrible runs, along this thing. The daytime ones are fine. They hurt, but those nighttime runs are tough. So having a battle buddy, right? We're all ex-military, so having a battle buddy with you can really make or break your willingness to complete. So I think that's critical.
I agree. I having done this twice now with amazing group. I don't know if I would go out and do it on my own. It would add an extra level of difficulty, an immense level. And so having a solid crew around you and during this thing, and have some fun with it. There's no shortage of sarcasm typically, especially in the midnight hours, that gets bounced around in our groups. And it's actually it's great because it lifts your spirit up, and you got to be able to laugh whenever you're going through hard things. And that's one of the key things. You can't take it all serious. You got to have some fun with it.
Yeah, and as you say that, it just kind of dawned on me. Like as I was talking, like this round seemed so much easier, and I kind of, like I said, just kind of did it for fun, and I think that's it. Because last year I did it by myself, just kind of, hey, I'm doing this and whatever. And so yeah, that's probably what it is. This time around, I was running with you guys. We were all checking in. Like, yeah, no, 100%. That's probably the biggest difference this year than last year was running it with you guys and chopping it up. And we did have a halfway point where I was still running because I took the later shift. Jody took the early shift, and I was running, talking to you guys, and that like I said, I think I said it a few times. Like that, the best part about it this year, I'm like running with people. So yeah, I think you're right about that. It was fun.
So what are some other challenges that both of you have on your agendas this year?
Yeah, this is where we wade out into murky water, isn't it?
I think there's bait on this hook there, Frank. I think there's some bait on this hook.
I heard 100-miler earlier. I don't know about you're gonna have to talk us into that one.
I want to run ultra this year. I think, since I had hung the shoes up from running marathons just because it was such a grind. Like for me, because even I haven't said this, like last year when I ran the 4x4x48, like I'm a prepared dude. When I say I'm going to do something, I want to complete it. So last year I did have some leeway. So I ran like a set of 12, and then the next weekend I ran a set of 24, and then I ran the 48. So I was kind of like testing myself as I went last year just to be sure. I didn't want to like cold turkey it. So I had enough runway. So I did a 12, and then I did a 24, and then I did the 48. This year I didn't. I just walk on and do it. But messing with you guys, so here's the power of influence. Like now I'm kind of going back like, okay, here we are. I've stopped running marathons because it was a 4-month ordeal to me because I would like have this crazy regimen each week and weekend runs, and that's a time suck. It's a ton of time. And certainly running the company, I didn't feel like I had that kind of time, but now I'm kind of like, okay, what's your excuse, right? why not? So definitely looking back at the ultra, trying to figure out like what's a good game plan, what's a good race, what's a good time to do that. So that's on my radar for this year.
Nice. Nice. So yeah, we'll have to chat, Dale, about the Ragnar, which is it's a relay, an ultra relay. So you go out and you run. You don't go run a whole ultra, but you run a loop out in Snowmass, and it might be 5 to 7 miles, and then you back your teammate goes and runs another loop, and so you do that over the course of a weekend. So we still need one more for our team. But yeah, some of my goals this year is running and biking 10,000 miles. I'm at 2,000 out of the gate. I'm actually behind on mileage from all my travel in Dallas. Now I have access to a new fitness facility there, so it's fantastic. Because down there, I just running at sea level. You got to run a long time. It's I do enjoy it because I feel like 20 years younger when I'm running down the elevation. But the humidity is that's a beast on me. It looked like I just jumped into a pool after I run. And then the other one that I want to do, one of my friends last year did a kind of a training reset. It's similar to the 4x4x48, but for 10 days, it's 5 at 5 miles at 5 a.m., 5 miles at 5 p.m., and you do it for 10 days. And just kind of a reset. And so I'm waiting on the weather to get a little bit nicer, and I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna give that a shot, just to do a 10-day kind of run, around 100 miles.
When are you doing that?
I don't have a date yet, just because the next few weeks we're got a lot of travel back and forth to Dallas, and then spring break with the fam. But I'll be in Phoenix next week. We're just going somewhere warm where we can bring the dogs on a road trip. And my goal every time we're on vacation is I typically go out and run for a couple hours every morning, and I love it. Sleep in a little bit, go for a nice run, no agenda, listen to some books or nothing at all. And here's something about me. A lot of times when I run, I listen to the same song on repeat, and I'll listen to it for 10, 15, 20 miles.
Wow.
Part of being on the spectrum. So it puts me in this kind of like flow state where I can just think, and I just have to have this continuous repetitive track.
It's almost like Chinese water torture, man.
Yeah. I can't imagine
Not for everybody.
Can't imagine listening to Bop that many times, Jeff.
Yeah. It's been that way my whole life. It's interesting. So yeah. It enables me to like think and solve problems though, when I'm out running. And that's where a lot of the things that I write and post on social all comes to me when I'm running. Just kind of like figure out the whole thing in my head. Then I come back and write it all down. So
yeah,
that's how I've been writing.
It sounds like this 5 by 5 by 10. You got some interest here. We can flesh that out.
Well, let's I'll look at some
calendars.
Yeah. I'll look at some dates because I want to be able to make sure I can do it whatever environment I'm in. Travel always adds to the mix. I'll be honest, running in downtown Dallas is not my favorite thing. So I spend a lot of time on a treadmill. I'd rather run than stop at lights, quite honestly. So
they got a nice little greenway space down there in Dallas that I've run before, but I don't know where you're staying. But there's some good spots. But yeah, you're about to get into the brutal season there.
Yeah.
So we're not doing that in July?
Not in July. You got to be home in Colorado.
Yeah. No. Cool. Well, hey, fellas, I appreciate it. It's a good chat. I freaking, like I said, wanted to get on here and just chop it up with you guys about the 4x4x48. I agree. And I think get out there, challenge yourselves, give it a shot. Listen to some David Goggins. He'll tell you what for and the why. And I would say he delivers, man. Like I've definitely learned the lessons that he's preached through this challenge for sure. That, your brain's just telling you to quit. And it's wrong, just keep pushing. You show up another set, another mile. Just keep on going.
100% agree.
So cool, gents. Been an honor to have you guys on. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Awesome.
Right, thanks
so much.
Thanks, gents.